When wealthy industrialist Tony Stark is forced to build an armor suit after a life-threatening incident, he ultimately decides to use its technology to fight against evil. This is my review of Iron Man. So this is the first review of a series of reviews I'll be doing for Marvel Phase 1. And I'll be doing a movie for Marvel Phase 1 each month before Avengers Age of Ultron comes. The first time I saw Iron Man wasn't at the theaters, it was when it came out on DVD and Blu-ray and my family rented it on DVD. And the first time I watched it, I thought it was an awesome movie. And after watching the movie a few months ago, I still think that the movie is really great. The good points. The best thing about this movie was probably Robert Downey Jr., who played Tony Stark / Iron Man. And that's simply due to the fact that he just owns this role. In the beginning of the movie, he's this sarcastic, cocky, playboy type of person. But as the events of the movie unfold, he starts to have an attitude change in a way by becoming a little bit more serious, but still having that cocky, sarcastic side of him still. Even though I think that Robert Downey Jr. did the best job out of the entire cast, I still think there are other members of the cast that did a great job as well. Jeff Bridges did a good job in the movie, and so did Terrence Howard, and so did Gwyneth Paltrow when she and Robert Downey Jr. had scenes together because their chemistry together was great. The next thing I need to say is that I thought the writing was smart for a superhero origins movie. And another thing is that the dialogue was written really well too. And most of the dialogue that I thought was great was written for Tony Stark. And actually, I don't know who did the writing in this movie. It might have been Jon Favreau, actually. But speaking of Jon Favreau, let's talk about his directing in the movie. So overall, I'll say that Jon Favreau's directing was great, and he did his best directing when the action scenes came into the movie. And I thought that Favreau did a good job of showing the development from Tony Stark becoming the person that he was before to the person that we saw him at the end. And he also did a good job of showing when Iron Man was flying through the sky. Because to me, I felt like I was flying with Iron Man when those scenes were happening. I was like, woo, whoa. And the final thing I'll say about his directing is that he directed both the comedic and the dramatic scenes well. The visual effects are another thing done well in this movie too. Another thing done well was the sound design. And I like the sound design for the Iron Man suit. Because when the armor is clanging together, it has that distinct sound to it. And another part of the armor that has a distinct sound are the gloves when they fire their thrusters. I found the pacing to be perfect for this movie, because there was never a moment, really, in my opinion, where I was like, yeah, that could have been slower or faster. It was just perfect. And that's probably due to the editing. And the final good thing I'll say about the movie is that the ending of this movie is awesome, and so is the post-credits, and I'll get to both of them in the spoiler section. The bad points. There are only two complaints I have about the movie. One of those complaints is that some of the action was a little bit that could have been done better. But that complaint is very small because there were only one or two moments where I was like, yeah, that could have been done better there and there. And the other thing I need to complain about is some of the visual effects. Because when I was rewatching this movie, I noticed several times in the movie where the setting and some of the scenes in the movie were completely visual effects, and that's fine. But the problem I had with those moments was that it didn't look completely done, or it didn't look as realistic as it could have been. And there's some other moments throughout the movie with the visual effects where it's yeah, the action scene there could have been done a little bit better with the visual effects. And some of these other things that these characters are doing that involve visual effects could have been done better as well, to make them more realistic. So my rating for Iron Man is going to be a 3.75 out of 4 stars. I think that this is a really great origin story for a superhero. Robert Downey Jr. owns the role as Iron Man. The writing was good, the directing by Jon Favreau was good. The rest of the cast did a great job. But like I said, the two small complaints I had with the movie were with some of the action scenes and with some of the visual effects. And if you're into action or superhero movies, or if you're a fan of Robert Downey Jr., then I think you'll like this movie. Alright, spoilers for Iron Man. If you haven't seen this movie yet, then get over now please, because I'm going to be spoiling the ending for you in the post-credit scene that happens after the credits. And you need to see this stuff for yourself because it gives you either chills or you just feel awesome after seeing this stuff. So the ending of the movie comes and Tony Stark is having this press conference with the incident that was happening throughout the city and throughout the facilities of Stark Industries. And there's this one important crowd that we saw before in the movie that was questioning Tony Stark about if he was involved or not. And then Stark goes on a tangent, but then Rhodey is beside him and he's like, just read the cards, man. So he's about to read the cards that Coulson gave him. And he's like, the truth is... And then he looks at the crowd. And then he says, I am Iron Man. And then the crowd goes ballistic. And then Rhodey, does a quick, glance at Tony, what the heck are you doing, man? And then the last shot of the movie is Tony Stark having a smirk on his face. And then it goes into the credits and Iron Man is playing. Yeah, I thought that was an awesome scene. And then the post-credits come, and I guess it's on the same day as the press conference because Tony Stark is coming back to his home. And I guess that Stark hears this alarm going off or something because he's like, Jarvis, and then Jarvis is like, welcome home, sir. And then Stark sees this person in the shadows in his living room. And then the person in the shadows is like, I am Iron Man. Do you think you're the only superhero in the world, Mr. Stark? You've become part of a bigger universe, and you just don't know it yet. And then Tony's like, who the heck are you? And then the person comes out of the shadows, and it's Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like, Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then Tony Stark is like, oh. And then Fury is like, I want to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative. And then it goes to a blank screen, and my jaw dropped a little bit. I was like... And the only reason I had my jaw dropped was because I knew what that meant. Because a few years before I watched Iron Man, I was watching an animated series based off the Avengers. And from that series, that was the only reason I knew who Iron Man was. So when Samuel L. Jackson said, I want to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative, I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get that movie? And it's crazy to think that this movie started the entire cinematic universe for Marvel. Because now we're just half a year away before Age of Ultron comes out in theaters. And when we go back to where it all began, the start of Iron Man, it's like, man, it's been a journey. And it's a journey that's going to continue on due to the fact that Iron Man was a huge success. So that was my review for Iron Man. Hope you guys liked it. And other than that, guys, that's it.